From the dawn of time, our ancestors have left us with the tales. Stories which speak of things that they have seen and lived alongside by, feared, respected, and even looked to some of them as godlike. Modern man refers to such things as spirits, extraterrestrials, demons, cryptids, creatures, and entities of all kinds, and so much more. These things and tales are now referred by most as myths and legends. But there are those of us that know what our ancestors spoke of was the truth. Those of us that have become obsessed in searching for answers and finding out the truth are here. We need the truth. This search brings us into the realm of the unexplained and unknown. It brings us on the trail. The search for living legends. Please join JR and I on the quest, and welcome to the search.
All right, welcome everybody. We are back for another season of the Skookum session, or excuse me, God, I'm thinking of the other thinking of the other show here. All right, we're back for another season of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends, and have the honor this year, of course, of having my buddy J.R. Kitchen back, and it's just I'm in awe still.
Hey, man.
JR, how are you?
Jesus. I'm well, man. I'm well. How's everybody doing this evening? Everybody good?
I am phenomenal. It couldn't be better. It couldn't be better. It's just great to have you back, man. I just can't get over it. Just can't get over it. Anyway, glad you're doing well, man. You're like the elusive, like Gary said the other night. You're like the target species we're after, man. You're elusive, but it's, when we get you, it's just amazing. It's amazing. So thanks for being here, buddy. In all seriousness, I appreciate you coming back on, man. I could not do this without you. I really couldn't.
Thanks, man. We won't be anywhere else.
Next we have my good friend from Virginia. One of the most knowledgeable guys in this field, in my opinion. He is from the southeastern U.S., as Mr. Kitchen is. My old stomping grounds for the last 2 years until I moved back up north. We have Mr. Travis Bowen. Travis, thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. I appreciate y'all having me.
Absolutely, man. Like I said to JR, man, I couldn't do it without you, man. You're just an addition we could not do without on this show. So thank you very, very much, man. It's much appreciated. Much appreciated. We have a really special guest tonight. It's very, very rare that we get somebody from my neck of the woods up in northern New York. I don't know what it is. I think a lot of it is that people are afraid to come forward with their encounters. A lot of people live, I know where a lot of people I am, they kind of live off the grid, including myself, actually. But they're afraid to tell their stories. They get ridiculed. And Alan, you know how that is. Let me introduce Alan. Alan, how is it you pronounce your last name? I apologize, man.
It's Cowan.
Cowan, that's what I thought. Okay,
Yep.
We have Alan Cowan from right down the road from me, about an hour down the road from me. Very extremely active area, and I just want to say it's an honor having you on here, man. Thank you for agreeing to come on. The three of us greatly appreciate it, man. We really do.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I like I was saying earlier, the way we kind of do things here is to kind of just let you tell your story, and basically what led you into where you're sitting tonight.
Okay. Well, I'll try to give some information. I was born in 1970.
Okay.
Back in the the early or mid 70s, mid late 70s. There was a lot of stuff on Bigfoot on TV, and I couldn't get enough of it. From the Legend of Buggy Creek forward, I was all about Bigfoot. And probably 1984, a friend of mine, we were staying in his brother's cabin, which was on the east side of the pond in Williamstown.
Okay.
And it's a little rocky brook that runs into the pond, and this cabin stood right next to the rocky brook, and it was on like had about a 3-foot clearance underneath it. So and it had 2 windows on one on each side and a door on the end, and it was late November. So there was snow on the ground, except for the spots where the sun came through the pines, where it was bare. I'd say it's probably about 11 o'clock at night, and I was sitting facing the door, and my friend had his back to the door. We were playing cards, and I saw the door handle moving, and it's like something was shaking the door. So I jumped up real fast. I slapped the lock on the door and started yelling, "Who's there?" And of course, I got nothing, but this door kept moving. It just like something wanted in. So we were frozen. I'm like, who? Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying who's out there. So we were terrified at this point, you know. And it plus it's the 1984 is like the height of the slasher film. So that's all that went through my mind, you know.
Friday the 13th. And,
Yeah, everything, you know. Somebody's out there trying to murder me, you know. And
Right.
I caught something out of the corner of my eye on the right, and I looked over, and there's a double hung window, and I saw something in the window, and the head was above the middle sash on the window. And now when I'm outside this, because I went outside and looked, and the next day, and I could barely see in the bottom sash. So whatever was out there was pretty tall, and it kind of just did this, like swaying back and forth, like it was looking around inside, and then it moved off to the right, or to its left rather. And I was like, holy shit, well, you know, I don't know what that was. and because to me, I gotta see, you know.
Sure.
All I could do was imagine. And the next morning, we waited, went outside, and we started looking around to see if we could see footprints, fresh tracks in the snow, for anybody who's trying to mess with us. Unfortunately, there was no snow around the window. It was all, you know, bare. It was frozen. The ground was hard. So we're looking around, and I go down the way this thing moved off, and I saw the footprint, and I just kept telling myself, "There's no way. There's no way." I'm looking at this footprint. I'm going, "Holy crap!" So I see where it's going, and it's going across this little rocky brook and up an embankment. And I saw the stride. That's kind of what got me, was the stride going up. Is everybody knows that when you're walking uphill, your stride is going to be shorter, and when you're going downhill, your stride will be longer.
Yeah.
But the stride going up this thing was huge, and I'm like, there's no way. Even if somebody had snowshoes on, they went and did this. There's no way. So
Right.
we're looking at these things, and I'm like, holy crap. You know, and my friend was like, somebody's messing with us. And I just, in my head, I'm like, no way. There's no way. And I waited years. Nobody ever came forward. Nobody said they were messing with us. And it's a small town. If you ever been through Williamstown, you know, if you,
Oh my God. Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody there. And so yeah, I as soon as computers were it was, you know, in the infant stages of computers, I hurriedly got onto one of those sites, and I put in my experience. And of course back then it was like we didn't have cell phones and nothing like that, no social media. So I mean, it was just, that's all it was. So now you might see that on a registry somewhere, the information that I put in.
Right.
But I'm telling you what I saw. I can't. You can't explain something like that. It just, you could try. I mean, people could pick it apart if they want. It doesn't matter to me, not when we're talking years later. I'm talking about like maybe the last year or two. A girl that my sister babysat in Williamstown had saw a post of mine on Facebook, and she messaged me, and she goes, "Where did this happen?" And I told her. She goes, "Holy crap!" She goes, "That's down the road from my dad's house, and my dad swears he saw one." And I'm like, "Good. That's all I needed. That's all I needed."
That's it.
And it's like, you see, like where you live, there's like a geographical probability kind of thing.
Yep.
And people are starting to talk about it more, like in New York and stuff like that, like the possibility that they're here. They even have a thing in the DEC, right? Somebody asked about taking a Bigfoot. Well, the DEC doesn't recognize it as a species of animal. So they say, you cannot take this, you can't kill one because they don't recognize it,
Yeah.
The DEC
Little.
came out and said that, and I was like, that's cool as shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Whitehall County too. They have the if you were to harm the species so-called Bigfoot, it's why jail time plus a $10,000 fine.
You ever been
Even
to Whitehall?
though they don't.
Yeah.
Huh?
Have you ever been to Whitehall?
I have.
Yeah.
I haven't been squatching there, but I've been and looked around, and yeah.
I was just there this September.
Were you?
Yeah.
Were you? Did you get to go out at all, or?
No, we were on vacation up that way, and I said I can't not come out to Lake George without going to Whitehall.
Yeah,
So,
that's a hell of an area too, squatchy area, like the Lake George area.
oh yeah, we came straight through the Adirondacks. My wife wanted to go sightseeing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, she wanted to see a Bigfoot. Because there was nothing else to see. So,
right, exactly. The beauty of where I'm at is we're right in between the St. Lawrence Seaway Valley, in the Adirondacks, so we've got kind of the best of both worlds there,
yeah,
so yeah, it's people don't realize. People think of New York and they think of New York City. Well, that's not the case. They forget about the 6 million acres of wilderness in the Adirondacks and the other 2 in the Catskills. So yeah.
I had a drill sergeant. Once say, "Cowan, you're from New York?" I said, "Yes, drill sergeant." He goes, "I locked my keys in my car. Can you come give me the lock?" And I was like,
right. You're right. Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Now, is your wife a believer?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, because I can't imagine being married to someone who has a different view,
Yeah,
and
it'd be tough.
Yeah, she loves hearing the stories. I mean, she listens to your podcast and everything else, and
very cool.
Yeah, she's like, it's on our bucket list. She says, "I want to see one," and I'm like, I know what I saw. I mean, I couldn't see details, but I know what was in the window.
Sure.
I can't imagine myself seeing one for real, but I would love to see more evidence of one.
Yes.
Footprints or whatever, and just like me actually coming across them, that would be the highlight of my life. Really would.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a different kind of experience, I'll tell you. Sorry.
Have you been out?
Go ahead, Jer.
Have you been out? You've been out and seen anything else, Al? Have you saw anything, heard anything else? What do you go out and do, man? Look for them or what?
No, I actually, I was telling Jay, was that because people don't want to talk about it, there's really nowhere. I could go probably walking miles, but like, you're looking for a needle in a haystack unless somebody tells you, "Hey, I've got activity," and then go out and try to investigate that. it wasn't until recently that I got these emblems on my truck that say
They are
Bigfoot response team.
badass. I love them.
Yeah, people have been now coming up to me and asking me questions, telling me their stories, and I'm like, it's incredible, you know?
Yeah. And those are, JR, I gotta send you those. Travis, do you mind if I send them to these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, they are pretty gnarly. Yeah. But that's cool that your wife is a believer as well. It makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
My wife's into her original by trade, she's a paranormal investigator, but we kind of cross fields. Because, Travis, and we're probably going to get a lot of ridicule for this. And frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn. Travis, and JR, you and I have talked about it too. I think I used to be, and along with these guys too, we, years back, we were all in the belief that these things were just some ape. Well, that's not the case. I think there's way more to it than that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Travis?
No, I don't believe they're just an ape. As a child growing up, I watched every documentary. I've got so much stuff packed away in my brain, and I watched a whole lot about primates, especially chimpanzees and lowland gorillas, orangutans. I've seen them in the zoo.
Yeah.
No, this is not an ape. It may be a type of primate,
but not an ape.
Not like a primate like what you're thinking about. These
You're right.
So something completely different. Super intelligent, extremely stealthy, impressive in every aspect. I mean, the time I've had in the woods with them, and I will tell you right now, I didn't go looking for it. I do now, but some of my best experiences I was not looking for. They came to me.
Same here.
And it was humbling as an experience. I can tell you that.
It's very humbling.
You're a guest when you're there.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You are. You're definitely a guest, and I think they pick and choose who they show themselves to. Yep. Our biggest, when we're out, I was telling, I tell these guys, we talk about it all the time, Mal, and me and these guys, and I have the most luck when my wife and I go out and build a fire, sit around the fire, and they'll come in and then they'll check you out.
Yeah.
It's not when you're out hunting for them. It's when they feel like showing themselves to you, and that's all there is to it. JR, let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, as I heard recently on a similar podcast, a guy mentioned that if it was an ape, then we'd already have one by now in captivity.
That's right.
I always knew it was an ape, man. I know they got a lot of ape-like qualities, and kind of like Steve Istel and my own belief, I always think it's another being. It's not like a link in between humans and or anything like that. It's a branch off of humanity where it branched off thousands of years ago. I come from like the Old Testament, the beginning Old Testament, so they're flesh and blood creatures. There's not anything else really to it. I mean, that's all there is, with extra like super capabilities, like capabilities that we have yet to understand, like people just
exactly. That's my belief as well.
Yeah, I don't
mind tricks, like line of
cloaking, telepath. I don't necessarily buy into that myself. I think they're just super intelligent, extraordinarily well adapted to where they live, and I think they intentionally make every move they make for whatever reason it may be.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm at the point in my life and in my research career where I have been through every stage of belief in what these things are, and I'm talking every stage of belief. Every time, every time I think I have it figured out, and we're never going to figure it out, in my opinion. That theory goes out the window because something happens to prove that theory wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think they're probably in my opinion. I think they're being in their own. You know, and Jr. Like you were saying, you know, just something on their own. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. You know. So, Alan, have you, without mentioning any other names, has anyone else out that way come clean to you about encounters they've had?
Yeah, I mean, the lady that I was talking to,
aside from that one,
we were at Dan's Chicken Shack.
Yeah.
And I was waiting. My wife went down because there was a line to walk up to and stuff. And so I'm sitting in my truck, and these kids coming up for salmon fishing. I say kids, they're probably in their late 20s, early 30s.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So they got out and they were asking, could they take pictures of my truck, you know? And then they started asking me, and I go, well, I have a story. And they're like, could you tell us, please? So I go, all right, if you guys want. And I told them, and they had a story to tell me. They were ice fishing, and with a lake that had a trail that goes all the way around it. So they went around the back side, and they were out ice fishing, and they heard the noises, and they seen them, and they actually got up and followed it. So of course they lost it. They never caught up to it, but when they seen it, they dropped what they were doing and started running after it. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys are insane. But
Yeah,
you know, I mean, those are truth seekers, you know, that they want to know, kind of deal.
you're right,
You know?
right.
Well, you do have people at Yellowstone that get out of their car to take selfies with buffalo.
And grizzlies. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. People wonder why they get gored, you know?
It's like these guys that see a Sasquatch bent over, facing away from them, and they're gonna go try to steal a dingleberry out of his ass. You know, and try to film it like, oh, this is gonna be great. He doesn't see me or something. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for things that can kill me. So
Yeah. I know there's a lot of there is a lot of sightings in that area. The whole North Country area up here, people don't realize that, but there is, and you know, the reason we do this, the three of us do this, because you know, I think it's our duty to let people know these things are real. You know, as researchers, Lord knows we aren't gonna get friggin' rich doing this shit. You know.
the only way you're gonna get rich doing this is if you actually get proof, like solid proof that everybody else can see. You know.
Exactly.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I personally don't.
No, I don't. What's that, JR?
I think it's a good way to get smoked. I think you get took out if you actually.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying. I think you'll get the finger pointed at you. You'll be a hot spot. Everybody will say you're full of. Everybody will think you're kind of full of shit, and that's the end of it. You know, just like all this other famous stuff, pretty much discredited and kind of wiped off the face of the earth. You know, kind of wiped out. That's why people kind of keep what they have hidden.
Yeah.
To the moment, for the time being.
I agree. I can personally, it's shocking some of the evidence I have been shown personally by people that I know it's real, it's credible. I'm talking about shocking evidence.
Shocking evidence, yeah.
They will only keep amongst very close groups, quiet, you know.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, well, all of us, we know what's out there.
We know.
I don't have to prove to anybody, but it is so addictive that you just want more, and you know,
more and more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's just like anybody studying any animal in the wild. I mean, you want that next better, closer encounter, or the next best shot, you know. So I guess that's just a human nature.
It is. I definitely think it is. Is there a long history? I know I already know the answer to this, but maybe you could fill us in a little more detail. Do you know of any cases sightings from back in the day from that area?
From my area,
Yeah,
Redfield, I believe it was.
Redfield.
Just north of Williamstown. So
Okay. Yep.
so Redfield is kind of like they call it the foothills to the Adirondacks. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, there's been sightings there. Of course, if you've been through there, really mountainous, really hilly, and sparsely populated. So the chance that if you're driving like County Route, I think it's 17, and maybe State Route 17, going north, there's a real high likelihood that you could see something going there. It'd be going up towards your way from where we are. You know? So when I heard of that report and I read that report, I totally believe that some guy saw it. So I ran right out in the street in front of him. So, and when he reported it, he was like saying the same thing. Nobody's gonna believe this. Nobody. And I'm like, why do you care? You saw what you saw. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You know, you can't prove that something doesn't exist.
It's true. It's true. You can't prove that something does not exist, without a doubt.
Well,
And
as
now-
far as, you know, people being quiet, especially in small towns. I live in a small town. JR, he lives small town, especially in the Southeast. It's like
we all do.
Yeah, you know, and once you get people talking to you one-on-one, it's been amazing to me the stories I've been told firsthand and also secondhand. Was like, well, my aunt saw this, and granddaddy told me about this, and my cousin, this happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to go public with it or put their name out.
No.
Once they know you're open-minded about it, you'll listen to it and not make fun of them. They'll tell you about it.
And they'll tell you about it.
There's a lot of people seeing these things pretty regular, and they're just not talking about it.
Absolutely. You got to get. I had one guy that I went through, that would give me stories from these people, that kind of lived. There's a town called Scary, New York. It's right near. The area, Alan, the Dwayne area, up near Meacham Lake.
Vaguely.
Yeah, I'm near Meacham, up towards Saranac Lake.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Those people up there are very, very tight-sealed about it. But like Travis was just saying, once you get talking to those people and you gain their trust, they'll talk to you. As long as you give your word not to run your mouth about it, they will talk to you.
Especially like since I have the emblems on the truck and the seat covers and everything, and people will come up to me and be like, this guy's got Bigfoot all over his truck. Who's safer to talk to about Bigfoot than him?
Right.
And I think that's for me that worked in my favor, because now
people
see it and want to come talk to me. Your friend that
Tommy.
saw me in the swing of Tommy.
Yeah.
A fellow believer, I'm like, absolutely, So
yeah, absolutely.
And people will come to me and tell me their stories, and you can see them driving by. My wife will see them, people pointing and go give me the thumbs up and stuff as they're going by, and I'm like, that's cool. For all I know, those could have been people that have actually seen something and never told anybody.
Absolutely, it's like we were saying earlier. The saying is, for every one report that gets, one sighting that gets reported, 10 don't. I personally think it's more than that. I would say more on the lines of one for every 20.
It's possible, yeah.
Just my opinion, just an opinion, of course, but
especially now with social media,
Yeah.
People don't want to be ridiculed or made fun of, and to me, it's laughable for people to behave in that manner when you know, they can knock you and say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about." Whatever. I'm like, do you?
Do you? Yeah.
You know, and it's like in my head, I'm going, man, I pray to God that one day you're out in your woods and you see something.
Yep.
You know, after they run their mouth, let them run into something.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's what
Change their mind.
My solution to that at work.
Yeah.
I got a pretty high end job, work with some really sharp people. You know, they're not dumb a bit. A lot of them hunt, fish, you know, they're out about whatever. And they give me hell about Bigfoot. Most of them. And which it don't bother me. I don't care. But they'll go on, and I always do the same thing. I smile at them. I say, when you going with me?
Yeah, right.
We can go anytime you want
Exactly.
to. I'll drive. You know, all you gotta do is show up. I'll take you out there. Well, no, I don't really want to do that. You know, that's what you get. And then I'm like, well, if it's not real and it's so funny, why don't you go up and out in the woods at night to see if it's real?
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
scared of the idea of it being real because it would change a whole lot of what they do, at least in their mind.
Change your whole life, really. I mean, yeah. You
And people
know,
are afraid of that. So
Not like anything else.
people are afraid of something, they attack it.
yeah.
Yeah. Or you know, it's like it's almost to me. I'll say it's like a jealousy, right? You got to experience it, they haven't, and they're picking on you because of it, kind of deal. You know, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I would have to agree with you on that. You know, and it's a shame too, you know, some of these people. I know of a case years back, and I've told JR, told you this story. Travis, I don't think I told you this, but I know a group of guys. Actually, the gentleman you just mentioned, my buddy, his father, and about 5 other guys were hunting down towards Tully in central New York. Now down near Syracuse, the Syracuse area.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they had all split up, and one guy was sitting in a stand, and they met back up after, and the guy was white as a ghost and scared shitless. And they said, "What the hell's wrong?" And they noticed that he had wet himself. And he's like, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." So he said, "I saw a Sasquatch." And they lit into him and busted his balls, and just they wouldn't let it go. And you're talking, you know, this is 30 years ago, so these guys were in their young 20s at the time. But I mean, supposedly the thing walked down the hill, you know, walked in front of his tree stand, stopped, looked at him directly in the eye, and kept walking. And the same type of deal happened to a relative of mine as well. But anyway, to this day, I tried. Matter of fact, JR, we tried to contact him last year to come on the show. This guy, and I don't know if you remember that or not, but he was supposed to call me back, and these guys ruined it so bad for him by ridiculing him. 30 years later, he was still not comfortable with talking about it.
Wow.
And I think that's awful. You know, 30 years later, I mean, not that I don't think it's awful that he wouldn't come on and talk about it. I think it's awful that they ridiculed him that bad.
Right.
Well, not only that, they did that right at the most vulnerable moment.
Vulnerable one, right?
He just went through something traumatic enough to make him lose his bladder control.
Yeah.
He had a bad, terrifying experience, and then they're going to do that right after. I mean,
right then and there.
That's
right
really,
then.
Really, really shitty. I mean,
yeah, it is.
You know,
it is. And the guy, even on the phone, as soon as I got him on the phone, I knew I wasn't gonna get a phone call back. Just from the tone of his voice, you know, I knew. But I said, "Listen, you're safe with us. We'll keep your name. We'll give you anonymity. we just want to hear the story. And he said, I just don't know if I'm comfortable in talking about it. These guys ripped into me so bad, just gave me a bad taste in my mouth. You know?
Wow.
He's probably got some PTSD.
Oh,
From
for sure.
seeing
Yeah,
it
without a doubt.
that too. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
like double, you know.
Yeah. For something to make you lose your bladder control, I mean that, and it was an up close and personal. You know, I mean, his tree stands here, and this thing was from what he describes, was 5 feet in front of his tree stand, man. And it turned and looked at him, looked him directly in the eye, and just turned and kept walking. Didn't do anything aggressive, but Jesus God Almighty. I mean, you're in your tree stand looking at something like that, a 10-foot hairy beast from it's not supposed to exist from 5 feet away. I mean, it's going to give you some
Well,
PTSD.
it's like a monster just walked out.
Man, that's a fantastic encounter.
It is, JR, and I'd love to get him on the show, but there's just no way in hell.
So
I mean, I could try again, and I probably will try again, but it's an unbelievable encounter. But they lit right into him, man. And like Travis said, that's the most vulnerable time you could light into somebody. You know, picture a bunch of 25-year-old guys sitting around, you know, and one comes back with his pants all wet and says he saw a Sasquatch. What's that?
They don't know shit, man. They don't know what's going on. Let them sit around, man. Let them ridicule. I don't care.
Right.
They don't know
yeah.
what the hell.
Right.
They don't know what's out there. You know what's out there.
Exactly.
I do know.
Well,
No, I agree. I mean,
I could tell y'all a story. I wasn't there. My daddy was there. This was 2 years ago.
well, let's hear it.
They were running dogs, deer hunting.
Yep.
And I know the boy. He's a few years younger than me. He's actually a former Marine, scout sniper. Did 2 tours in Afghanistan. He saw right much action, and beyond that, he honestly isn't smart enough to be afraid of much. Just, I mean, I know him. He was like that when he was a kid.
Yeah.
But they were down there running dogs, and the dogs are going in the same big block of woods where I've actually had a lot of my experiences at, through sightings. Other just been followed, you name it, whatever. He had gone in, dogs were on a deer, and the dogs had just cut off. So he had gone in to see what was going on, see if he could find the dogs, try to pick a track back up, whatever. Well, they said that my daddy was there. He was telling me they was up the road waiting, a bunch of them. And the dogs started coming out, 1, 2 at a time. They had about a dozen on it. These are walker hounds. And they all came right back to the truck. They wanted to get back to the truck. They started loading the dogs up. And this young man, he come back out of the woods, walking kind of brisk, and went over and started putting his rifle in the truck. And they was like, you know, lose the deal, what happened? You know, this, that, and the other. And all he did, he turned around, he told him, he said, I ain't never going back in there again. I don't want to talk about it. And he got in the truck and he left.
Yeah.
And he ain't never talked about it since. So my daddy, being the skeptic he is, he said, I believe they run up on a mountain lion or something down there. I said, really, Daddy? I mean, you talk about a former Marine scout sniper with a high-powered rifle and a pack of walker hounds. I don't think he's worried about a mountain lion.
right.
And I mean, he said himself, he said something rattled him. He could tell he was visibly shaken and upset. So, and to this day, he's never talked about it. He's never told, he won't talk about it. He won't tell anybody what he saw.
Wow.
I mean, I got a good idea of what he run into.
Oh,
But
sure.
he don't.
Just the way you tell that story. I mean,
Yep.
you can tell that he ran into something. You know, I mean, just the way you tell that story, man. He sounds to me like he's on.
Yeah, I think that's what messed the dogs up. Because this is the other strange thing. The dogs was on a track, and they got to the creek, and it was a poplar tree fell across the creek, and whatever they were on crossed that big poplar tree. It didn't go. A deer's not going to go across a poplar log on the creek.
Right.
And they crossed that creek. They actually worked until they picked up the other side of that fallen tree. and went in their ways, and that's where they lost track. And that's when this young man went on over in there deep, trying to figure out. Yeah, he was the youngest one there, and in the best shape. And nobody knows to this day but him and them dogs, I guess, what he run into over in there. But it messed him up, like I say.
Sure.
So
That's awful, man. It's a horrible thing to have to go through. I mean, it really is. It's a horrible thing to have to go through. I had a guy. I used to date this girl, and boy, she had a father who was came from a logging family like me, and he used to bust my balls, you know. Oh, when are you afraid the hairy beasts are gonna come out and get you, and all that, you know, all that stuff and whatnot. Well, maybe, you know, hey. But anyway, so a couple years after we had split up, I talked to this old man that I interviewed. You guys have probably heard the interview. The gentleman has since passed away, but he was my go-to guy with these people that lived off the grid in the Adirondacks. So anyway, he said, "You'll never guess who came to me the other day, scared shitless, and mentioned he had an encounter with two big red Sasquatches. And lo and behold, it was this guy that used to call me the pussy and the." So, you know, it's kind of that was my all right, you know. now he knows, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess it scared the ever loving bejesus right out of him. But you know, he found out they were real. You know, sooner or later, you know, these skeptics that spend a lot of time in the woods. You know, I'm a strong believer in karma. You know, and I truly believe that, you know, one day or another they're gonna find out that there's more out there than they realize. You know, they're gonna find out there's more out there. That's for sure.
well,
I mean,
this is actually a real simple thing, but I remember when coyotes actually started showing up here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was maybe 9, 10 years old. We started hearing stories, you know, such and such saw a coyote, such and such saw a coyote. Like, you know,
sure.
coyote, just a wild dog. Duh, duh. Nobody believed it. And then all of a sudden, there's an article in the local newspaper. I knew the guy. His farm was 4 or 5 miles down the road, miles. He had killed one. And they had brought in like a biologist from Virginia Tech University up the road here, well, a couple hours up the road, to verify it was actually a coyote.
Coyote. Yeah.
But they had been here who knows how long before somebody finally just shot one.
Yeah.
It actually proved it really were his, you know.
I mean, and that's how it works. I mean, there's lots out there that people need to wake up.
it speaks a lot about their intelligence, right?
Yes.
Like you were saying before, if you go out and you build a fire and you're just hanging out by the fire, I think that to them they're more likely to come and check you out. You know,
I agree.
if you're going through the woods like you're looking for something, then like any other animal that's out there, they're gonna try to avoid you.
Yes.
Because they don't want you finding them either. You know,
No.
whether it be a deer or any other kind of critter out there. But again, if you're sitting by a fire in the woods and you don't know what's creeping up on you.
No.
You know what I mean?
No way. No
It
way.
could be anything because it's curious
Anything.
about what you're doing. You know.
Sure.
So
Not only that, that's more common activity for people to be out in the woods at night, to go out there and build a fire and camp,
Yeah.
hang out, you know. there's not a whole lot of people out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning stalking through the woods with thermal imaging and night vision and cameras and audio.
Right.
That's
Right.
you know,
Right. Absolutely.
because I will
The
say,
best thing to do is just act like you're not looking for Sasquatch.
What's
Sorry,
that,
man, go
JR?
ahead. I said the best thing to do is just go out there and act like you're not looking for a Sasquatch. That's the best thing.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
yeah. I mean, the best activity I've had, I was not actively looking for them.
Same here.
They chose the situation, they chose the time, place, they showed up.
Yep. Same here.
So yeah, if you're really interested in it, go out there and act normal, build a fire, hang out, you know, have a drink a beer, cook some hot dogs,
Yeah.
have a radio playing. But very nonchalantly be paying attention to what's around you. You might get lucky. The
Yep.
biggest thing is maybe the next day, later on, scout around a little bit, real casual. Just walk around and look. You might find that footprint you're looking for.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
That, very well said, Travis.
Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said, Travis.
Very
well said. Very well said. I have to edit that out later. I told you, Alan. Anytime you're only an hour. I told you, Alan. Anytime you're only an hour. You're an hour away from me. You're welcome down here anytime you want, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be taking you up on it. Trust me.
Yeah, I hope
super
so.
interested, man.
I hope so. Like I said, he just said, we'll build a fire, have a couple of beers, and just relax.
Yeah.
And they'll come in.
That would be so great. Yeah.
They'll come in, check us out. You know, you'll see those red glowing eyes beyond the fire, and like he said, next day walk around, might just find that footprint.
That would be neat.
There's no these guys can testify to the fact that there's no better rush than just coming across a good piece of evidence, man.
All right, yeah. The crazy thing is, in my experience, information that's come out about the sounds they make and all this other stuff that I didn't know about when I was a teenager. I started thinking back and trying to think of any time that we heard something strange or smelled something strange or whatever, and I can recall quite a few times that's actually happened. And I think I told you one of the stories when I actually named it Bigfoot Swamp because we had to take our trucks across this rocky brook twice to get to this clearing, and something let out this god awful scream, and it's everything. I mean, everything was dead silent. You hear a pin drop, and it scared the living hell out of everybody. So they were all piling in my truck, slapping the side of my truck, go, and we didn't know what it was, but it scared the hell out of all of us. And when I look back on it, it very well could have been. It's in the same area. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can you guys still hear me by any chance?
I can.
You can?
Well,
okay. I'm just double checking.
Me and JR actually had a conversation. We were just talking about, he's like me, grew up southeast rural. You hear stories from old people, and they don't talk about Bigfoot or anything crazy,
No.
They always have some explanation for what really, when you really think and break your story down and listen to what they're saying, it's just something normal. It was like my granddaddy used to talk about wampus cats hollering out in the bottoms. Like, what in the hell is a wampus cat? And like, you talking about a bobcat? And he's like, no, it's a wampus cat. What they look like? We just hear them squalling and hollering down in the creek.
Yep.
Like, and when I was a kid, of course, I was just like, okay. But now knowing what I know's out there, that's when you start backtracking to some of the things you experienced and were told about or heard. And it's like, and not to necessarily say it is or it was, but a whole lot of them, I believe, probably were. You know,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
that I mean, I can even look back to things I experienced when I was younger in the woods. That as kids, our minds we explained it away as a bear or whatever. As
Yeah.
an adult with a logical mind, breaking it down, looking back at some things like, no, well, that probably wasn't a bear. You know,
Right.
might have been something else out there messing around.
Sure.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it gets down to, and I don't want anybody, myself, to be one of the people that every little thing is a Bigfoot caused by Bigfoot. Bigfoot did this. Oh no, not Bigfoot. But there are some situations, just saying, it's usually something subtle, small, some weird little incident, something you find that's just so out of place and just completely not logical to anything. You can relate to it. That's when it starts getting some footing and some credit to it. That's when you really need to start paying more attention to anything around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can empathize more with people who just accept it at face value.
Right.
Not the people who have to find out why the grass is green.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. These sites they've been reported for what 200-300 years now that we know of.
Oh yeah.
Worldwide or in the United States?
Worldwide. Right, yeah.
Worldwide.
Oh,
Go all the way
thousands.
back to cave paintings, Neolithic
Yep.
men. I mean, it goes back thousands of years.
Thousands. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a passage in the Old Testament that me and Jeremiah talked about, I believe,
Yep.
that may be related.
Yep. I mean, it's crazy. The you go back to even ancient Greece, you'll hear about ancient Egypt. I mean, it's so many places across the world. It's just insane. All over. The Native Americans, you go back. What turned the? Let me ask you a question. You had Leif Erikson came here in the 1500s, right? Okay, the Vikings. The most
Before that,
fearsome
it was about 1000 A.D.
Yeah.
Around 1000 A.D.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's you. Yeah, I got the 1500s mixed up with that. Okay. Yeah. The most fearsome group of warriors ever to walk the face of the planet. Okay. Now they come here. They turn right around when they get home. They start talking about these hairy ogres that they had seen that forced them to turn around. Now, what could have scared them, the most fearsome group of warriors that the world has ever seen, to turn them around and head back to the other side of the friggin' Atlantic?
Right.
I mean, let's put that into perspective.
Leif Erikson actually wrote that there were 10-foot tall,
Yes,
hair-covered, stinking monsters in the woods of Nova Scotia.
that's right.
They were horribly afraid of because they believed them to be like demonic or evil gods.
Right.
So
Trolls, he called them, right? Or ogres.
their translation of it, I think, was ogre.
Ogre. Yeah. Yeah. But something freaked them out, and these guys are bad dudes, so something scared the ever living shit right out of them, it's just it's wild. I mean, it really is. I mean, you go back to ancient Mongolia, ancient Russia. You talk about the Himalayas. The Yeti goes back how many thousand years? I mean,
They're pretty well modeled all throughout written human history. So
yes,
you're talking about what, 8,000 years or so, 7 maybe.
about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I say, even passage in the Old Testament, and even Michelangelo's painting on the wall of the Sistine Chapel over the
We
pulpit
talked about that the other night.
shows what looks like a male and female Bigfoot in a cave.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
It's pretty interesting, and I didn't know about it until Travis said something to me. But you got to check it out. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, wow.
It's pretty interesting. Look at the look at some of the look at some of the Egyptian gods. The carvings on the inside of the pyramids. I mean, Anubis and all these other half man, half half creature looking, half beast looking demigods, gods. So who knows? I mean, it's
That's
definitely
the wonderful thing about it, man, is there's a magic kind of in all of that.
It is. There
And
is.
science. It's like science and magic. Science is trying to destroy the magic this world has by saying, no, that can't be, or whatever. But like, you know what? You can say that whatever you want, Gigantopithecus or whatever. But if it's as big as they say it was, based only on a tooth that they found.
I was gonna say they
Yeah.
based Gigantopithecus and everything they know about him on like 3 molars they found in a cave in
Yeah.
China, about a 1/4 inch long piece of jawbone.
Right.
Yes.
So I mean,
They
if,
Yes.
reconstructed this from that, and they're gonna tell me that what I saw doesn't walk the woods.
Exactly. Very well put. Well put,
I mean,
Travis.
I've heard people say something about like Neanderthal man. I'm like, first of all, Neanderthal man were built. They were built pretty rugged, but they were short.
Short.
They
Yes.
they were shorter than modern humans.
Yes.
So I don't see how these things could have evolved from that.
Me neither.
I don't
personally
can
don't.
actually scientifically dispute the Neanderthal theory. The
Yeah.
reason being they have mapped Neanderthal DNA. There are human beings walking the earth right now carrying Neanderthal DNA.
Carrying Neanderthal, because we did
The population.
we did interbreed with Neanderthals at one time.
Yeah.
We most likely out competed and bred them out.
Oh yeah, we did. We out competed. We were smarter.
And there
Smarter.
has been what I personally believe to be credible Bigfoot DNA recovered that fell between unknown primates, somewhere between chimpanzees and human beings.
Yes.
So
What's
this
that, a 2%
is like an
difference?
undocumented hominid that has not been documented by science of any kind.
Right.
Because they don't want to be.
Yeah, exactly. The only, and I'm going to say quote unquote Bigfoot type creature I think comes the closest to the Neanderthal or Homo erectus or anything like that would be the Almas or the Almasi from Eastern Europe. They're the ones that resemble, you hear the descriptions on those.
Right.
They're the ones that
Like
resemble them the most.
Or like orang pendek too.
That I'm infatuated with the ring. I think that is a very, very, very interesting subject. JR and I actually interviewed Dolly Sandra DePuccia, twice, JR? We interviewed him?
Yeah, I think it was twice. He come on twice. He told us about him and his encounters. How there's like 3 different sizes of them, or there's kind of like 3 different species.
Very, very, very intelligent man. Oh my God. He was the first. Help me out, JR. He was the first. You know who he is, Travis. He's the little Indonesian guy. He's a PhD. He does all the work with the ring pendek and.
Yeah, I'm horrible with names.
Yeah, well,
I know you're talking about.
I sent you a picture of his tracks. He gave me permission to. Remember, they look very ape-like. They're circular, and his foot. He was the first ever to cast tracks of a type the natives, have been talking about there for thousands of years, called orangutan. And orang pendek, or he said, JR, orang pendek looks a lot more apish, where orangutan is 10, 11 feet tall, but resembles more of a human. But yet are apish, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's right. Almost like almost like hair colored, like basically just like the name states, orangutan like.
An orangutan like.
More,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
orangutan like, but like a cross in between and orangutan, just bigger.
Yeah. And he's yeah, we got to get him back on the show. He's extremely interesting to talk to. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they've had a lot of sightings on Sumatra of orangutan.
That's where he does all his
Yeah.
research. Sumatra.
Well, the thing is, it's been like 4 or 5 years ago, some anthropaleontologists doing excavations there found and proved and documented an unknown species, pygmy hominid people that were about 4 feet tall, but they were bipedal in structure.
Yes. Also, there on the island of Florence too.
Yeah.
Floriensis, Homo floriensis.
Yep.
Yeah, hobbits.
Yep.
Yep. The hobbits. Yep.
Hobbits. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
They were bipedal. They were tool makers. They knew how to use fire.
Yep.
But they were only like 3 or 4 feet tall. They were tiny.
Yeah. I think
the sightings of the orangutan deck.
They do. Except the only difference being, I think Dolly was saying the Pendek is the bone structure is a little more wider,
robust.
more robust. Yes.
Yeah.
I think maybe they're related.
Well,
Same
give them 2 million years to adapt and evolve in natural selection. I mean, they probably did bulk up. Their feet would have got.
They did bulk up, yeah.
For the muddy ground they're walking on.
Exactly. I think it's fascinating. Yeah, they found that skull, remember? And they thought it was a 3-year-old. They thought, okay,
thought it was a child.
Had a 3-year-old child, and then once they took it to a dentist, an anthropological dentist, and he said, no, this is a fully mature adult,
Yeah.
which to me that's just fascinating. It really is. And at one time there was 11, 12, 13 different species of hominids walking the earth at the same time.
It was a long line of bipedal hominids.
Yeah.
That branched off and just disappeared out of the fossil record. Never. Don't know what happened to them.
So
exactly.
That's the kicker, right? They got all this evidence of different things existing, and so we know that something out there, like an offshoot or whatever, you've got the opposite spectrum, these little 3-4 foot high mini humans. So for science or scientists or the science whatever saying that something like Bigfoot couldn't exist, it blows me away. I'm like, you guys
it's ridiculous.
Evidence of different things, and you don't want to believe this.
It's ridiculous. You know why? They have such a hard, in my opinion, they have such a hard time admitting that it could be real, because they would have to say they've been wrong this whole time.
Well, I can tell you the root of all this evil is they all go to school for their degrees, and I'm not knocking that. But the people teaching them, the people that taught them and taught them and taught them and taught them and taught them before them, won't teaching anything about, hey, maybe there is an 8, 9 foot, 1,000-pound bipedal hominid unknown species rambling around the world that just don't want to be found by people.
Right.
And occasionally, and actually very occasionally, people run into them.
Yeah.
But since we can't catch one, we can't find one, we're just going to say they're not real.
We're going to say they're not real.
Imagine the fire that could be
science works right now.
Yep.
Imagine the fire that could be lit in these kids that, letting them or teaching them about that.
What if they actually? What if a good scientific-based university actually had a PhD major in cryptozoology?
Yep.
That's what they need
to pursue it in the scientific method.
Yep.
What would they actually uncover and find?
That's the question. Why don't they? Is it because they know they're, like back to what you said, Travis? Do they know that there's going to be something found? You know what I mean?
That's my own personal opinion, but you know,
It's-
I get
Same
deep
here.
and start down that road.
Same here. That's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah. I'm not going to go any further than that as far as that goes. But yeah, I agree. What are they afraid they're going to find?
Well, I mean, and you can look it up. I have, out of curiosity. There were some footprints found. I don't remember where. These are fossilized modern human footprints. These are our feet,
Yes,
fossilized in stone. It's like 2 or 3 million years old.
Africa,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I remember hearing
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not supposed to. That's not even supposed to be possible.
No,
But
no.
somebody with a modern human being walked barefoot through some mud a couple of million years ago to fossilize.
Yes.
I mean, you don't just fake that. You know.
No, you can't fake it. No,
So
absolutely
something
not.
that's going on in nature that we all aren't aware of yet, you know? Like we
Yeah.
talked about those portals.
Yeah.
People go missing all the time without a trace. Where they go?
Where do they go?
You know,
Exactly.
what if it's like a Bermuda Triangle type of thing where people are displaced in time and space and they find themselves 3 million years in the past?
In the past,
Nowhere to go.
right, right.
Well, I mean, have y'all seen the hammer they found in Texas back in 1936?
I did.
I think.
Yeah.
How old
It was-
was that?
I can't.
That
I
was-
don't want to say it wrong, but they carbon dated that thing at, I want to say, like 1 million plus. It was.
Yeah,
it
Yeah,
was
was-
that's
the
insane.
rock it was in was really old, and there's like a hand forged hammer with a piece of a petrified wooden handle in it
Yeah.
in Texas. And I mean, it's been studied to pieces, and it can't be disputed. I mean, there's no logical scientific explanation other than the fact that hammer got in that rock a very long time ago.
Yeah, and see, and that's another. That brings me in a whole nother. I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble for this one, but the whole. I've never been on board with the whole land bridge thing. I think there's been people here all along. You know, I had Native American relatives, and they'll tell you we didn't cross in any damn land bridge. You know, I mean, I think why should there have been people in other parts of the world and not here? Just my opinion. Just my opinion. So
I'll agree with that. I mean, there's people in Australia, the Aborigines.
oh my
there.
God.
Australia's been attacked from any other continent for an extremely long time.
Oh my God.
I mean, the Polynesians of Hawaii,
Yes.
their ancestors originated from the east coast of South America.
Yep.
They sailed there an
Yes.
extremely long time ago. People get around. People are smart. They have a problem, they fix it. If they want to go somewhere, they're going to find a way.
We have an associate, you Travis, or you JR, and myself, and I'm not gonna mention his name on the radio because I don't know if you want me to or not, but I think you can all figure out what I'm talking about. And he was adopted by a Christian missionary. He was born in a tribe in South America, and they had a linguist come in and try to figure out the language that these people were speaking. And you're talking about dead center of the Peruvian jungle, okay? And the closest type of language they could base their language on, get this, Asiatic. So, Travis, that goes along with what you were just saying.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean,
Very-
that's just like your earliest European explorers in the southeastern United States when they encountered some of the Cherokee Indian tribes in northern Georgia.
Mhm.
Some of those these are Cherokee Indians now.
Yes.
Northern Georgia had red hair and white skin.
Yes. That's right. That's right.
they had been in England with some Europeans at some point.
Yep. Yeah. Well, look at the mummies they found in Florida. What that were dated? What 10,000 years old?
Yeah.
That were of Western European descent.
Yep.
I don't know.
My whole thing with the whole story of history is, I'm sure a lot of it's accurate.
Of course.
Be missing pieces. You know, I mean, that's like to this day, Christopher Columbus still gets credit for discovering the New World.
The New World,
we
yeah.
know the Vikings were here 400 years before him.
They were here before
a
him.
whole lot of evidence to support that railroad made it all the way across the Pacific Ocean in like 3200 BC.
Yeah, exactly.
And intermingled with the Indian tribes in Arizona.
The whole
piece. You will never hear that in the book. You will read that in the book.
No, you'll never. You won't learn about that in school, man. No.
That's it.
School, man. No. Well, gentlemen, I hate to do this. But I gotta cut this short for the evening. Hour and a half was like quick. I'll tell you that much. Alan, thank you very much for joining us. And
it was a pleasure, man.
If you would like to come back and join us for a second part at some point, we would be honored, man.
Yeah, you just keep me posted, brother.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, it'll be JR, myself, and Travis doing the show, and we will. We'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, it's great meeting you guys.
It was a pleasure, man. Pleasure. Really enjoyed chewing the fat with you. You know, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Anyone wants to reach me, Jeremiah Fountain, as you all know, you can reach me on the trail.jf@gmail.com or hit me up on Messenger if you're interested in coming on the show or if you have any questions. The three of us do this because we like to educate. We like to educate people, and we don't get rich doing this. We do it to help everybody. So feel free to get in contact with any one of us at any given time at all. JR?
Yeah,
how can we get in touch with you, sir?
Catch up with me at JarettRandall05@gmail. JarettRandall05@gmail.
There we go.
Happy to take a listen, answer any sort of questions with whatever knowledge I can gather up from anybody else, because I'm no expert. Man.
But he is a wealth of knowledge. Don't let him fool you. Thank you, JR. And Travis?
I wish.
Thank you, JR.
Yeah, if y'all can get in touch with me for anything, my email is onthetrail.tb@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. Any questions, encounters, whatever, just hit me up. Be happy to talk about it.
Awesome.
And we will, you guys, if anyone wants to come on the show, remain anonymous. You know, we'll keep your anonymity. I have trouble saying that word, anonymity. But even if you need someone to vent to, we've all been through it. We know what it's like to go through the experiences. Even if you need someone to vent to, we're there for you. So, Alan, thanks once again, man. We appreciate it. And we'll have you. We'll keep in touch, and hopefully have you back on for part 2, man.
Absolutely, thanks, man. I appreciate
All right,
it.
everyone. Not a problem, brother. Not a problem. It was our pleasure. Everyone, have a good evening. This has been the premiere of On the Trail. Episode 1, Season 2. Thank you very much. Good night.